Birds are in the sky.
What makes a warrior is how they see challenges and adversity as opportunities. Warriors grow, prepare, and prevail through their crucibles. Whether you're active duty, retired, or veteran, whether your battlefield is in entrepreneurship, business, or just climbing life's ladder, you'll gain some of what makes a warrior. Insight. Lessons of grit, adaptability, and the warrior's spirit will inspire you to smash through anything that stands in the way of your mission. Buckle your seatbelt as fellow U.S. Marines, Emmy Award winner Colonel Rico Player, and international best-selling author Zachary Green interview fellow warriors and share how they conquered their crucibles.
Yes, sir. We're gonna smoke them.
Good to see you, as always. I'm Rico Player, and this is my partner in crime, Zachary Green, international bestseller, serial entrepreneur, and Marine veteran. And we are here on The Warrior's Voice with a very special guest today, Maria, the Daumenator Daume. But thank you for joining us, and please, with waste no time, give us a little bit about you.
How you guys doing? I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Before we get started, tell us where we're sitting right now.
You guys are at 4th Battalion, 4th Marines in Paris Island. This is where I actually became a Marine. What good days those were. It's a legendary place. It holds a very special place in my heart.
Sacred ground. I think I can still see your boot prints in the pit back here from where you were.
Definitely in the pit.
Yeah.
I was there a lot. They said if there was a reward or an award to give for the recruit that was IT'd the most, I would have gotten it by a landslide.
Incentive training the most?
Yes, I got IT'd a lot.
I think this
like
is
a lot.
Such good friends, because I got in trouble so much, Colonel, that when somebody was being IT, they made me go up there. And finally I asked why, and they said, because we know you screwed something up beforehand and we missed you. So there you go.
Yep, every time. I felt bad for my bunk mates because every person next to me would get IT'd with me and they all hated me. They're like, stop laughing. And I was like, I can't.
That was why I was always in trouble. I would always laugh. Oh,
they can't. They come up with such good things to say. I'm like, that's genius.
I hear you. Well, let's start all the way back. Tell us where you were born. Tell us a little bit about your early childhood, and then kind of walk us up to when you got to the Marine Corps.
Okay, so I was born in Siberia, Russia, in a prison with my twin brother, Nikolai. He's actually in front of me right now listening. Our mother passed away while in prison, and when we were 2 years old, we moved to Moscow to live in an orphanage until we were 4. I don't remember a lot. I remember that they gave me absolutely horrible apple juice, and to this day, I cannot drink apple juice. I cringe when I give it to my daughter. When I was 4 years old, a couple in New York adopted me and my brother. We moved to Long Island where we were raised. Me and my brother definitely had a pretty hard childhood. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom was an enabler. A lot of problems happened. But me and my brother got bullied a lot for being adopted. I don't know why, but that was the thing that, kids say. And eventually I started fighting back. I would just my neighbors used to bully us so bad. And eventually I just had enough and I fought. And then I realized I could fight. So it kind of helped me out. But growing up, I played every sport you can imagine. I was a varsity basketball player for 5 years. I had colleges looking at me. I was really respected in the athletic community. Wasn't a great student, was really angry, got into trouble. I was just looking for an outlet, and I made all the wrong choices growing up. And then when I was, say, about 11 or 12 years old, I went to a Relay for Life from my high school, and the Marines were there. And Jonathan Butterfield was the recruiter. I'll never forget him. I was cocky, I was this kid, and they're like, can you do pull-ups? And I saw these men trying to do pull-ups, and I was like, this is a disgrace. So I went up there and I just banged out 10 pull-ups. and he
Wait,
would, they looked at me.
old when this happened?
I think, yeah, I was 11 or 12,
Oh my God.
maybe a little older, but like in that time frame, I was a young teenager.
Okay.
And he looked at me like, oh my God. And I got off and I was like, oh, see, like, I was like, what do I get? Can I have a shirt? Like, I just wanted stuff. And he's like, have you ever thought about the Marine Corps? And I was like, no, like, not really. Like, nobody in my family served, I didn't know much about the military. And he's like, you're too young, obviously, for me to talk to, but I would love for you to come down to the recruiting station and see the poolies, see what we do. And I stayed in contact with him. And then, my life got messy and I made bad decisions. And when I was 17 years old, I met another recruiter, Jonathan Orlop, and he was in my high school and he tried recruiting me. And I said, Psh, get out of here. Like, I was like, I know the Marine Corps, I don't need to go. And he's like, are you kidding? And I actually went back to him a couple months later and I was like, I'm interested. I needed to get out of where I lived. I needed a fresh start and I needed to do something that was honorable and, worth something. And what better thing to do than become a United States Marine? So I went into the office in Smithtown. That was where the RS was. And I sat down and I told him, I said, I'm not going to become a Marine unless I go on the front line. I want to be in the infantry. And he looked at me and started laughing. And he's like, that's not possible. You can't do that. And I was like, well, then I'm not becoming a Marine. And Jonathan Kosh, a lot of Jonathans, he was the gunny at the time staff sergeant. He's now gunnery sergeant. He was the station commander or the station chief of recruiting. And Sergeant Orlop went and told him this female wants to be in the infantry. And he came out and he met me and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I had like an hour and a half meeting with him. He talked to me about everything. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He's like, you know what? He's like, I'm going to try and push this through. He's like, something in your eyes and how you're talking to me. He's like, I can tell you're meant for the infantry. He's like, he was an assaultman. He, very old school Marine Corps. And he straight up said, he's like, I think you can do it. So they routed it up to MEPS. I had to go and do a physical there was all men there. I think I was like the only woman. And I had to do a CFT and a PFT at the same day. And they like back to back. And my recruiter was like, you need to do this or you're screwed. Like you're not getting in. So I went balls to the wall and I did everything the best I could. And I actually beat everybody on the CFT. I got PFT 300, CFT amazing. I did the most ammo can lifts. The pull-ups, I think I hit like 17. Like I was just pure adrenaline. And I left and I heard nothing for like 2 weeks. And I was driving with one of my friends and my recruiter calls me and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm driving. And he's like, pull over. And I was like, okay. So I pulled over and he's like, guess what? And I was like, what? He's like, congratulations. He's like, you got the contract. And I'm going to start crying. I was like, it was amazing. I actually got out of the car and started jumping up and down in pure joy. And the first thing I thought of is to call my mom. So I call my mom and I'm like, where are you? She's like, I'm in Target. I was like, stay at Target. I'm coming there. She's like, what? I was like, just stay at Target. So me and my friend go, we have her 2 dogs and we're running through Target parking lot in like a little wagon for the dogs. And we're in Target and I'm looking for my mom. And I finally find my mom and because you scream mom in a grocery store and everybody turns around. So I'm screaming, Nancy, Nancy. And she's at the register and she like turns to me and everybody's looking at me. And I was like, I got the contract. I'm becoming an infantry Marine. And she just looked at me. And I think she was just so like, what? And everybody was like, yay. Like, they don't know who this person is. It's just some random person screaming in Target with dogs and another person. And that's when it all started. I feel like I blinked my eyes and everything just got crazy. I had media outlets from the Marine Corps following me. I had to do a interview at Garden City. They made me like box a statue thing. I had to run. I think I had to do tire flips and they were recording everything. I went to New York City and I did a news outlet where I did pull-ups on live TV, and it was like aired in the news. And it was funny because the guy that was doing it next to me couldn't even do one, and it was all like live stream, and I'm just banging out pull-ups, and this man that looks a lot more physically fit than me is just like struggling. And I didn't realize until like everybody that was watching was like texting me. They're like, you just showed out this man. Like I was like, I didn't even realize I was just doing what I was told. And then I was supposed to go to boot camp. I think it was October 3rd of 2016, and it actually got pushed because that huge hurricane where they had to evacuate everybody in Paris Island to I think Georgia or something, or so everything, all the dates got pushed back. So I was so upset because, you know, we did like my going away party. I was ready to go. And they called me and they're like, we can't go. Your new date is October 16th, which I kind of thought funny because 16 is my lucky number. I was born on February 16th. I played, you know, sports. My number was 16. So I was like, oh, this is a sign, you know, it's meant to be. So I shipped out on October 16th. I slept at a hotel in MEPS and then went. And I remember sleeping in the airport with like a bunch of random people because all the flights got delayed and everything was screwed up. We get there, I get on the bus and I'm like so tired and I'm just like, what the hell did I just do? Why did I do this? I was like, I just want to be in my bed. I was like, this is no. And we get to Paris Island right in front of the, you know, yellow footprints, and the drill instructors come on and I'm like, oh my God. And I step on the yellow footprints. And the minute I walk in the door, everybody knew who I was. I had one of the receiving drill instructors. She goes, oh, you're that recruit, the infantry? And she called me crazy right then and there. She's like, why would you even want to do that? And I was like, oh, Jesus. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And we stayed in receiving for what was like 3 days. It felt like a week. You know, we didn't sleep. We made the phone call. And it became really real. And we got to the barracks, or it's not even called the barracks, but the squad bay. And, you know, we got our bunks, we got everything, and we met our drill instructors, it was like 2 days later. And they saw me and they knew who I was right away. And all of them were like combat support and stuff, like different MOSs. And I actually think that they respected me for trying to do it, but I don't think they liked the media attention, which you're a drill instructor, so obviously you don't. I didn't like the media attention because everybody's eyes were on me 24/7. And throughout my experience, it sidelined me a lot because everybody was mad that this is happening. They had to clear out the squad bay. One time I was a recruit and I'm sitting there being interviewed by the combat camera, and they had to leave the whole squad bay. So now they're all getting IT because I'm getting interviewed. And I'm watching my drill instructors look at me and I'm like, oh, good God, I'm going to get, they're going to come after me. But I was honest and I told them, I was like, you know, my drill instructors do a great job, you know, like super motivated, you know, hyped them up. And then they left and I got IT'd, I think like 8 times in that one day in like a 2-hour span. Got to, and I was like, nothing can stop time. Like, in Jacksonville, let us go to bed. North Carolina, please let us go to bed. And I stepped off the bus, and I'll never forget. I texted my mom, and I was like, I'm in a man's world. I got this funny story actually. And in October, the sand just keep going. They all knew me constantly. It was the face.
That's for the record.
We're getting all bit up right now.
They're hungry and they miss you, and they send the message.
A very
come on
unique
down.
experience. I think it made me a lot stronger. They got enough of my skin. Combat instructors. I used to take that everything like that white. I think I had like that they give you that little tube. And I would put it in my instructor that like respected me. But I would run out after putting it all over my face, and I didn't realize that it doesn't rub in. So I'm sitting there with white stuff all over my face, and I didn't realize. And the drill instructors just made me wipe it off, and I was there while everybody was eating.
Know how to do that.
It just got bit, and I couldn't. That's why I didn't think I should have been a morning. But I graduated advanced AMC, so I guess I did all right. But the combat instructors actually gave me a lot of respect because I watched men that were, you know, bigger, stronger, taller, everything fall out. You know, there were just left and right men falling out. And I actually went in with another female, and she fell out the first hike. Like, I think we took like a 2-minute rest period, and she fell out. I think we hiked maybe like 50 yards or meters. You know, it was nothing. So I was like, oh, I'm by myself now. And I think that I gained a lot of respect after that hike because I didn't fall out. I passed every test. And, you know, you can say what you want about like female Marines, but if I'm doing everything 10 times better than half the men here, what can you really say? We had to we had to lift the Mark, oh my God, I keep forgetting, the Mark 19 over our heads. And I watched, no kidding you, this man that was probably 6'2", 200 pounds, lift it up and fall back because it was so heavy to him, like straight on his back. And I was like, oh God, like how heavy is that thing? I never picked one up. And I was like, all right, like, you know, I squat, I deadlift, great shape. And I just clean press. And they kind of just looked at me, and I actually scratched my eye while lifting it up. So I'm like bleeding, and I was just like, nothing phases me. Got to get this over my head. And they just were like, okay. And I feel like that's how my experience went throughout my whole career, because, you know, the first thing they see is a female, and they're, you know, they don't like it, and they try to do everything they can to, you know, get you to quit, get you to, you know, cry suicide, just get you to just be out of there. And, you know, it does take a toll on you. And I had some dark days because I was like, this isn't my life. Like, this is terrible. You know, like, I'm not happy. But eventually, you know, I proved myself, and there's nothing that anybody can say that like I didn't do. And eventually, you know, they stopped calling me a girl. They were just like, you know, you're Daume. You're a guy, you know? And I think that was like the best compliment I ever got, was that I wasn't a girl anymore. Because they finally just saw me as, you know, one of their brothers, you know, another man in the fight.
Well done. That's where I'll agree to disagree, because I don't think you should have to leave who you are at the door. You met every wicket, you checked every damn box, you did everything that, you know, your peers were doing, and sometimes you did it better. So why should you have to strip yourself down because the majority tells you to? You stood your ground and you earned it the same damn way they did. So I applaud you for standing your ground and being who you are. You're the Daumenator. If they can't deal with that, they need to leave. But you did everything you were supposed to do, and I salute you for that.
Thank you. I had a staff sergeant. I'm not gonna say his name, but he was, if I could have followed him for 20 years, I would have done 20 years. He was like multiple combat vet, insane transcript. Like, this man has done so much. And I met him when I went to Camp Lejeune, and he said it. He's like, you're good. You're better, because everybody's like, oh, you have this female. I was a squad leader. I was assistant section leader. And I talked to him, and I was like, look, you don't know me. I don't know you. I was like, I'm just here to do my job. And he's like, cool. And he said it to me when I left, when I got my DD 214. He's like, you were probably one of the best Marines that I've ever had the privilege of mentoring. And that really, really meant a lot to me, because he doesn't say that stuff a lot. And I had a gunnery sergeant who was, I think everybody was scared of this man. He was very, you know, and he was a great Marine. He was just very strict, and which he should be, you know, you have a standard. But he actually texted me like a week after I got out, and he's like, I'm really, really proud of you. And I actually still talk to him. He's like, I don't agree. He told me, he's like, I didn't agree with female Marines. He's like, when I found out you were coming to my unit, you know, I wasn't happy. And he's like, you completely changed my whole outlook. He's like, you are an actual, you know, excuse my language, but a badass. And that, like, those two things, to this day, like, I saved like the text messages and like the conversations. I was like gonna put them on my wall, because that meant so much to me, because I felt like I did and I tried so hard, and I kept just getting like sidelined, and things just kept happening. I was attacked in the Marine Corps 5 times in my barracks room, just sleeping. And, you know, there was just a lot of things that I didn't understand how, you know, the Marine Corps could let happen, because they're supposed to, you know, protect me. I fight for them. Like, we're an organization, we're a family, we're a brotherhood. Like, how is this happening to me? And I had, like I said, I had a lot of angry feelings towards the Marine Corps at one point. And just the couple of people that I met that just made the difference really helped me get a different perspective.
So let me just, for giving it to my partner, Zach, just apologize for, I wasn't there, I wasn't the commander, that's irrelevant. I'll apologize on behalf of the institution that you're right, that should not have happened. Can't go back in time and fix it, but I'm gonna apologize to you right now. And number 2, I just wanna be clear that those 2 folks that you respected, for whatever their pedigree or resume was, they said you're a badass Marine, and they said you're an awesome Marine. They didn't say badass female Marine. They didn't say awesome female Marine. Just badass Marine and outstanding Marine. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to be clear on that because that makes a difference.
It
And
does. I agree with you.
you know, I don't ask anyone to leave who they are at the door. As a commander, I need that diversity. I need that diversity of thought. I need that diversity of perspective. And I need to bring 110%, male, female, whatever. If you are contributing to the mission, that's all I care about.
Exactly. My thing was when I had, junior Marines, when, I was the mentor. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're about. I don't see anything besides the fact that you are another person that is going to help fight, and you carry your load, you carry your pack. That's all I care about, and I did that. And I felt like, why is that good enough for me, but not good enough for all these other people? Because I'm not a man, but I'm still doing the same job. I can't help that I'm not a man. Like, I just want to do this job. And I say it to this day. If I could have, I loved being in the infantry. I loved being a mortarman. I was going to go for recon. And I ended up getting out because I was like, I can't do this. I can't deal with the organization on how it is, like, politically, how they're handling what they're handling. And I just felt like I wasn't happy. I had to leave. And I wish to this day that it wasn't like that, because if I could have done 20 years in the infantry, which obviously, you get PCS to different, stations and different jobs, but I loved it. I loved being in the infantry. I still act like I'm in the infantry. My mindset, how I raised my daughter, everything is just what I learned in those 4 years. And it makes me very upset that I didn't, keep going, and why I didn't keep going. And I feel like that's why, when Zach reached out, I had a lot of conversations with him. I had a lot of other news people reach out to me. And my ultimate question to myself was, there are going to be more females. And if I can get what I need to get what I need to say, then, maybe things can change, so that eventually in time, we can all just be one, and we can be, the Marine Corps. And it doesn't matter about, race, sex, ethnicity, nothing. It just matters that we're all here and we have the same goal. And that's what I hope for the Marine Corps in the future, because I didn't get that.
Yeah. Well, Maria, one of the things we like to talk about with all of our guests, and it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter if you're a stay-at-home mom working 3 jobs to get your kids to private school, doesn't matter if you're a combat hardened, a veteran. This concept of the warrior's journey, and it starts with hardship, it starts with struggle. And what that does for the warrior is it makes them stronger. When you have people that make fun of you and the people tell you you're not good enough, that drives the warrior to prove them wrong rather than let them depress them. But at some point in time in their life, you're going to have a crucible. And the crucible is that crisis where whatever you've done up to that point is not enough. And you literally get to the close point which I call the abyss. And in that abyss is where darkness lies, where suicide lies, where failure lies. It's where you give up. Now, you've got to honor and respect that abyss. You have to recognize that it's there and it's dangerous, and you want to stay away from it. Matter of fact, the great philosopher Nietzsche said that when you stare long enough into the abyss will stare back and consume you. And that's, you find that in people that are in toxic relationships, people that are having drug or alcohol problems. The longer they're in that darkness and that abyss, the harder it is to get out. But to get through that abyss and through that crucible, you have to do 2 things. You have to transform who you are, and then you have to conquer what got you into that crucible. Now, I've heard the story I'd love you to share with our guests, but let's talk about when you get into the fleet, because I really feel that's when your crucible happened and when you came really close to the abyss.
I do agree with you. When I was in the fleet, I was in San Mateo. That's where I was stationed first. It was by far the most awful experience I've ever had in my whole entire life. To this day, I don't think I'll ever actually go back to California ever in my life, just because I know that San Mateo is there. I still talk to maybe 2 people from that unit, but that's about it. I cleared my hands of them. I PCS'd the 2-2, and good riddance. But when I was in San Mateo, everybody hated me. Everybody I got there, and we got there at like 2 a.m, and we got picked up, and we had formation at like 5:15. And I got there, everybody's room was fine. My room was absolute trashed. They didn't clean it, they did nothing. My window was broken, my door really didn't lock, and it was disgusting and smelled so bad. So and they're like, we're gonna have a field day inspection, so your room better be cleaned by 5:15. So I was like, okay. And I stayed up, I cleaned everything was good. Went out to formation, and it was like a shark attack. I felt like I was in boot camp all over again, but just with more men. And I went to I hit the fleet with like 12 other people. I was the only one. In San Mateo, they have what is like first sergeant's hill. You can go meet God, and that's like up the helipad, and then you go up this dirt path. And every day they'd be like, you want to meet God today, Daume? And I'm like, if you say no, they're like, oh, you don't believe in God, we need to go show you him. Or if I said yes, then they're like, all right, you do believe in God because he needs to help you. And it was just always something, I could never say the right thing. And I got the absolute, I'm trying to not curse. I got hazed.
This is a podcast. You can share any stories.
Okay.
Totally fine. Be yourself.
I got the shit hazed out of me. They like threw me down the helipad. It was like this big road that went like little hills. We used to do like races, and I'd race, and they'd come behind me and push me, and I would just fall down the helipad. They destroyed my room, I think, every other day. I used to have like on Saturdays when like we used to get a hotel room, and like, PFCs don't have a lot of money. We used to buy a hotel room out in town because of how bad we were getting hazed, and we just wanted to hide. They used to call us back on the weekends because they would get drunk and just haze us. They used to make me come outside, and one of my seniors, I'll never forget it, he had like a slip and slide because they were doing like a big barbecue out in the quad, and he knocks on my door and he goes, you're a female, so you know how to blow, and made me blow up the slip and slide in front of like 35 men as they were all drunk, making, sexual innuendos. I used to have to do what's called monkey fuckers. It's this weird exercise, and you like touch your ankles, but it looks like you're kind of like twerking in a sense. And I had to do that in front of my whole entire battalion. And I'm talking like staff sergeants, gunnery sergeants, nobody stopped it. I went to 29 Palms for a like an ITX, and I think that was one of the happiest places I was, because one, we had no service, so if we weren't in the squad bay, they couldn't find us. I used to hide in the bathroom for like hours. I knew a couple of guys from different units that were also at ITX, and like senior guys like that I grew up with that just joined the Marine Corps, and now we see each other in 29 Palms. And that actually made me feel a lot better because I felt a little more safe. My buddies were big, like machine gunners, anti-missiles, like they were big dudes. So it made me feel a little better. And then my seniors got drunk, and they came back to the squad bay, and they used to do like a forced hydration, but my canteen had piss in it. And I saw him piss in my canteen, so I wasn't gonna drink it. And they held me down. I mean, like, we fought. And even like my peer group, they were all just like what? Some of them tried helping me, but there was just too many of them. And they held me down, and they took the canteen of piss and they poured it on my face. They opened my jaw, and I just got a mouthful of piss. FYI, pee tastes terrible. Don't recommend it, because I went outside and probably threw up for like 20 minutes and then cried in the bathroom for like 6 hours. And that, I think, was when I was done. I completely, like, I remember calling my mom in the bathroom, and I'm like, I can't do this. And she was obviously, she's my mom, she's livid at the fact that I just drank piss. She's like, that's illegal. And I was like, what do you want me to do? I was like, nobody's gonna tell on me, nobody's gonna come and save me. I was like, I can't do anything at this point. And I was going on like a field exercise for like 4 days. And every time I went to the field, it was absolutely terrible because then you're in the middle of nowhere and you can just get hazed. And 29 Palms is probably like 105 degrees. And the next day, I remember going out to the field and they made me skull drag in the sand for like an hour. And to the point that I was like overheating. And I was like having a panic attack. I couldn't see anything. And my corpsman finally, he finally decided to do his job and he's like, you need to stop. And they like put me in like the back of the Humvee with like ice and stuff. And they took off my flak and I was like able to breathe for maybe an hour. And then they hazed me again. And I was like, when is this going to stop? And then we got a new staff sergeant and he, this little short guy, he had this thick accent. And he actually took all my seniors and he's like, what the hell is wrong with you? They're like, she has done everything you ask. She literally probably put all of you in jail. Like you guys could all lose your careers. And for what? She's doing everything. Just leave her alone. He's like, she's the most dangerous person in this platoon. He goes, you know why? He's like, because she has nothing to lose at this point because you guys have done everything to her and she is still fighting. That is who you want on your side. And some of them, they stopped. But I think what actually happened was that there was a huge hazing investigation and I didn't rap. And I had like, they used to text me in the middle of the night, like, I'm horny, like you're the girl, you need to come do your job and stuff. I had text message. I could have just ruined all the careers and I didn't say anything. Some of them still got in trouble for hazing just from like other people and other aspects, but I didn't say anything. And actually think that they respected me, or they just were like, thank God, like let's leave this girl alone because count our luck, we're done. But they started to lay off me. And then eventually I started somewhat kind of being friends with some of them. And when I was in Australia, I actually got attacked for the 3rd time at this point. And when they did the investigation, I had what's it called? The victim
advocate.
Yes. She was an officer. She was a logistics officer. She was absolutely amazing. Actually, still contact her because she was that good. And how she like routed it up. They found out that my command swept the other incidents under the rug, and the Marine Corps deemed that I wasn't safe in that unit anymore because that they kept sweeping under the rug and it kept happening. And I actually got like an emergency PCS to Camp Lejeune, but that was a whole different problem because now they hate me because now they're in trouble, and they like put me in Margaritaville and like isolated me. I had no car, I had nothing. I was just in this little Margaritaville, which is like 6 squad bays maybe. I didn't know anybody. And then eventually, maybe like a month later, I got out of there and I went to North Carolina, and was the best, move on my part in the Marine Corps because I had to get out of there. It was terrible. To this day, I have nothing but bad things to say about that unit. I don't even, like, when people ask me the units that I served in, I don't even say that unit ever. I don't affiliate myself with that unit. They're not me. They're nothing about me. Nope. I just say 2-2.
Maria, I mean, you've unloaded, unpacked.
Yeah, sorry, that was a lot.
No, you don't have anything to apologize for. I can only once again apologize for the bullshit that you had to withstand. And I mean, like I said, we're unvarnished on here, and then that's the way I assess it. It's unsat, and your leadership failed you. But out of all of that turmoil, all that pressure, all of that hazing, when did things turn for you? And it sounds like it's when you got to North Carolina.
It was. I went there and I was a senior at this point. I wasn't a junior Marine, and I went in there and I just completely didn't take any crap. I had the best first sergeant I have ever met in my life. He has a 10-year-old daughter, And he always says, he's like, you need to stay in. So my daughter has the leadership. She does like jujitsu. She's like this really like badass little girl. But he was amazing. And he sat me down and I was like, what's going on, First Sergeant? I was a Lance Corporal at the time, picking up Corporal. I picked up Corporal maybe 2 months after getting there. My whole world changed because they all were just like, okay, like, you know, 2-2 really did like accept me as a Marine. And I also went in there with, you know, like my dick right here, like, you know, like, let's have a pissing contest because I'm gonna win. Every run, every log, everything. I was the one at 5 a.m. Doing tourniquet drills with my, you know, my junior Marines, teaching them everything. Like there was not one point where I was slacking, and everybody saw that and they're just like, yo, this chick is a badass. I'm scared of her. Like she's a badass. My junior Marines actually said before I left, they said that out of every senior they ever had, that I scared them the most. And I was like, I kind of like took that as a compliment because I felt like I needed to be the scariest, baddest, most fit person I can be so that nobody could ever judge me or try and say that I'm something different. And don't get me wrong, I think I was a good senior. Like I mentored them. You know, I didn't haze them. I did nothing that I felt like everything that I went through, then I knew what not to be. I was still mean, I was still scary, but I was also not my seniors, which I made sure that I was never. And I had a great experience in 2-2. I did get attacked. They couldn't find the guy. But I don't think they handled it as the best they could, but it was better than what I was used to. And that's kind of like really sad that I have to say that because they still didn't do their jobs. But I had 2-2 was a very good experience for me. I met my husband. I have a daughter. I think that PCSing to 2-2 saved my life in a sense.
Sometimes you learn from leaders that are bad, and you also learn from leaders that are good. And I think you just articulated that so eloquently. And that is, the bad leaders still teach you something, because they teach you what not to do, and they teach you that I don't want to be that, and I don't want to have that. And then the good leaders are people that you emulate and people that you want to be like. So appreciate you sharing that. As we get here towards the end of our discussion, and honestly, we could go another 2 or 3 hours. We're going to definitely have to have her back on for a couple more episodes. I know that when I served in the Marine Corps 50 pounds 30 years ago, the greatest compliment you get was a nickname, not your rank, not your last name, but your nickname. Tell us about how you got your nickname, what it is, and what a transformational point that was for you when you were in the Corps.
So I have a couple, depending on who you talk to. One of them, I don't consider this a nickname, but they said it's either going to be Queen M or Queen B. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, Queen Maria or Queen Bitch. It depends on the day. But we used to play spades a lot, and I got really, really good. And they gave me the nickname D Money. And that stuck with me through, you know, that was my call sign. And then Daumenator. Because so it was like Dominic and Daumenator. They'd call me Dominic because they're like, your name is Dom, you're just Dominic. And then they're like, it sounds like the Daumenator, it sounds like this. So it all transferred from my last name, and I feel like when they stuck, like you said, you know, the nickname means more, and they stuck to it, it made me feel good because it made me feel like I had a place. You know, we all had like these stupid nicknames we call each other, and mine was pretty badass. You know, it wasn't like something bad, it wasn't something mean, it was just, you know, it was genuine, like this girl's a badass. You know, I used to, like, parents used to call me and they're like, you're her, you're the Daumenator, you're Dominic. And I'm like, that's me. And like my family was like, why are they calling you Dominic? And I was like, it's a Marine Corps thing, and I'm telling you, it's a lot more genuine than you think. But yeah, I would say D Money, Daumenator, and Dominic were my 3 key nicknames in the Marine Corps.
Love it. Colonel, any last questions for the Daumenator?
No, I'm tapping out. It was it takes a lot of courage and a lot of insight and a lot of growth to share what you shared, and just really appreciate it, and thank you for being on the show today.
No, thank you for having me. Dedication? Can I do that?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
just gonna
okay.
say we finish each one of our episodes with a dedication to a former warrior. Typically, it's something that the Colonel and I come up with, but we figured since you are our warrior hero and our warrior leader, we'd like you to make the dedication for this show.
Okay. I actually have two. My first dedication is gonna be, I wrote this down, I'm sorry. William Leslie Baverstock. I'm not very good with the last name. He was a corporal and he served, he actually got out in 1972. He was drafted into the Army. And when the Army drafted him, he said, fuck that, I'm becoming a Marine. I never had the privilege of meeting him, but I actually knew and still do know his daughter. And the reason that I'm dedicating this episode to him is because of how his daughter speaks of him and how she speaks of the Marine Corps and how she, she raises her daughters and how she carries herself. She's such a strong woman. She absolutely loves the Marine Corps. She just wants to know everything she can. I don't think I've ever heard somebody speak of their father the way that this woman speaks of hers. And I think that that's really, really special. And I think that it takes a special kind of person to instill those values and that, like the way he raised her. So I do want to dedicate, this episode to him because he raised a badass daughter and she's raising badass kids. And I have the privilege of, calling her a friend and really honored for that. My second dedication is going to be to Sergeant Nicole Gee. She was one of the 13 Marines that passed away in Afghanistan earlier this year. She actually came into the Marine Corps in 2016. She was a little after me, so I didn't have the privilege of knowing her. But from everything I read, we have mutual friends. She was a badass. She was married to another Marine. She served with the Combat Logistics Battalion in Camp Lejeune. She died when she was 23 years old. She had 300 PFT, 300 CFT. She got meritoriously promoted in Kuwait to sergeant. She was, she was a go-getter. She was a pipe hitter. There's pictures of her holding, the babies, and you can see how genuine she was about her job, like how genuine, how special this was to her. And reading articles and stuff online, like this is all she wanted to do growing up. She wanted to serve her country and she wanted to help humanity. And I think that, rest in peace and thank you for the ultimate sacrifice, but you did that and you lived up to what you wanted to do. And, those kids were lucky. Everybody that, got to serve with her is lucky. And I think she's a badass. And I think that, she's giving them hell up there. She's just, making everybody run for their money. She's probably working out up in heaven right now. Just being a badass. And I definitely dedicate this episode to her as well. And I really wish I had the time and the privilege of meeting her, and I hope I did, the dedication justice. So
Maria, typically the way we finish each episode is by Colonel and I giving a knife hand and saying Semper Fidelis, but we'd be honored if you join us with that as we finish out and honor the people that you've dedicated to. So I'll count us down, 3, 2, 1, and then knife hand and Semper Fidelis. Okay, you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
Semper
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 Fidelis.
Fidelis.
All right.
Thank you for listening to The Warrior's Voice. If you haven't, please subscribe to this show and be the first to hear new episodes with fellow U.S. Marines Rico Player and Zachary Green. You can also visit www.warrior-framework.com to learn more about how you and/or your business can use the Warrior Framework to conquer personal and professional crucibles.